Hi there, it's Carl Irwin, the Common Magician, and the question came out with the recent video, when tutorial? Right now. Right now. And I just posted this earlier today, and I have a moment here to address what it is. Now, this goes to show, if you were fooled by that, it goes to show that you can know methods and not think of them, right? Because the method for this is all over this channel, particularly lately. It's all over the place. It's a favorite of mine, particularly as a common magician that doesn't have the 3 to 4 hours a day to practice magic, right? I spend that time practicing other skill sets that are much more important to my work than on this. This particular method gives you a great deal of control to do some really impossible things. And it's pretty simple. We have 2 decks of cards. They're not entirely normal. They can be used as normal. You can do regular magic with these, but there is something unique about both of them. So we have a card here, and we have a card here. And you're thinking back to previous videos, and some of you are already ready to name it. These are double thick cards, okay? So these are thick cards, and some of you are already ready to turn this video off and move on because you just can't stand this idea. But this is a long-standing, really great idea. And you can be the kind of person that loves to do magic with just regular cards. You just want to do magic with regular cards. Honestly, this is a kind of method, a kind of gimmick that allows you to do all of your magic with regular cards. There's nothing about this that prohibits you from doing completely regular magic. In most cases, when you're using a thick card, you could make it the Joker or a guarantee card. In this case, we want the double thick card to be an identity. Now, what you can do, and this gets you even further, right, is that if you take a duplicate of a card in the deck and make that a double thick card, it allows you to use the double thick, but it also then gives you a duplicate in your deck. Now you can do duplicate card tricks, and you have the double thick card to use as a key or for its identity. It can allow you to use a double thick card as a duplicate, so that you're using the method of the thick card, and the fact that it's a duplicate gives you a great deal of control over a situation. But that's what this is. So we have a thick card in both decks. They are matching. Recently on the channel, I talked about making what I called a 1.5, like a half thick card, which is a lot harder to detect. Like someone can shuffle a deck with a 1.5 thick card in it, and they won't feel it. They won't know it's there. But since you know that it's there, you can identify it immediately every time because you've made it, you've dealt with it, you know what it's like. And the way that you do that, just very briefly, if you didn't see that video, you take 2 cards. You split them. You have to split cards, and I teach how to do that on that video. Kind of a surefire way to do it without ruining too many cards. You do it correctly almost every time if you follow that procedure. You split a card so that you have a back and the glue layer with the back, and then you split another card so that you have the face that you want with the glue layer on the face. So the glue, it's kind of like dividing an Oreo cookie. When you go to divide the Oreo cookie, it doesn't go cookie and cream on this side and then half of the cream on this side. It doesn't work that way. All the cream goes to one side, right? That's how splitting cards work. When you split the card, and you can choose which side you want the glue to go to if you divide it very carefully on the corner. Watch that video. But you divide it so you have glue on the back, glue on the face, and then you glue 2 layers of glue with a back and a face together, and it makes a much more pliable but still thicker and springy card. So that is a really, really deceptive double thick gimmick, and it takes some time to make, but it's well worth it if you're working with paper cards and you want to make one. But anyway, thick card in each deck, and it's pretty straightforward. What you're going to do is you can have them shuffle. Usually whenever you're dealing with a double thick card, a fully double thick card, you don't want them to do this because they'll feel a click and they'll go, what was that, right? What you want them to do is you say, here, can you just shuffle the cards like this? Or what I like to do too, if you want someone to shuffle and you don't want them to handle them, you get to a table and you just put them on the table and say, here, mix these up real quick. Go ahead, mix them up really good. Make sure, switch it. Now you force them to mix them the way that you want to, and they don't really have an opportunity to feel the cards. And you say, good, now square them up, bunch them up, and then you can pick up the cards yourself, you can square them, and you're ready to go. Now, the only thing that is required here is that you need to do the last bit of shuffling because you have to find that card. You need to know where it is, and you want it to be central no lower than middle, and about as high, no higher maybe than the just below 1/3. Okay, so 1/3 to middle, somewhere around there. I take the cards back and I riffle up in the back as if to divide them. And when I riffle the first time, I can feel where it is right away. Either I'm going to note that I don't feel it at all and it must be at the bottom, or I'll know that it's at the top, or I'll feel it somewhere in the middle. I can feel that it's around the top third. So what I'm going to do is divide in half, and then I'm going to lay a big bed over here. And you have to practice this because you got to know automatically what to do. And I've done this quite a bit. I drop about half of this packet over here, and then I riffle fairly. And what I've done is I've just put that double thick card smack in the middle. Now, whenever I divide again, I'm dividing at the thick card. I know it's over here. I bury the top card over here, and I've controlled it to the top. Now, what I want to do is once I have it on the top, I can do more shuffling if I want to, but I just need to cut it. So I'd either cut about 2/3 or 1/2-ish to the table and then drop the rest of it on top. And now my thick card is where I need it. Now we move on to the force. Now on the comments, there's just been a couple comments because I just posted this recently. Someone said, very fooling. I hope it's not a dribble force because I don't do that very well. I don't do a dribble force very well. This is the best kind of dribble force because it really doesn't require a lot of skill at all. There's really no management of the spacing. With this, you really can be you can high pressure the spectator and be really quick with it. And in doing that, what it does is it gives you license to go all the way through the deck if they don't tell you to stop. You can get those wise guy relative spectators, you know, the family members usually, or close friends that just want to bust you, that you'll say, go ahead, say stop, and they'll wait and not say anything, or they'll try to say stop on the last card. Well, once you get to that click, you just drop everything and say, you know, I get paid by the hour. That's one of those cringy lines that magicians use. If you don't like to use those kinds of lines, what I usually say is you gotta be quicker than that. Okay, we want to make sure that we get something out of the middle that I don't have control over. Go ahead and say stop. You go and you'll feel that click. The only way that you'll ever take my word for this, if you're a breather user, I'm a breather user. I use breathers all the time. Don't think of this as a dichotomy, that you can use this or you can use that, but never both. That's nonsense, right? I use breathers all the time. I use other crimps all the time, but I also use thick cards too, because a breather can't do everything a thick card can do. And a thick card can't be handled the way a breather can be, right? There's time and place, isn't there, right? The only way you're going to take my word for this is if you make one, let it dry, put it in the deck, try to dribble that thing or riffle it, and you just see how obvious it is for you as the handler, right? Anyway, you get there, you say, good, we've got a card, you take it off, it's going to be theirs, you'll feel it click, and then you just do the exact same thing with the other side. And of course, it'll all work out. Again, you just shuffle. Now, I found it right away. I'm just gonna bury it back in, but I'm controlling it in the middle. I can feel where it's at every time I shuffle. So I know I've maintained it in the middle so that on my last shuffle, I can bring it to the top and then cut it back in again, right? Same kind of thing. You say, go ahead, say stop, right? They'll stop. Doesn't matter when they say stop. If they say stop early, you're going so fast, you're going to hit that spot, right? If they say spot later, too late, you're going so fast, you're just going to go all the way through and say, no, you got to be quicker. We want to get one out of the middle somewhere that I don't have control over. Go ahead, say stop. They say stop, and then you've got it. Really, really, really solid way to handle the dribble force. It's surefire, comes out every time. And there's your card. So now, a little bit more to follow up on this. What if you do keep a card that's a double thick card and you use it for its identity? That doesn't have to be the last time that you use it. Because you can use a double thick card, as I've taught on the channel before. Mostly the way I use it is as a key. I don't use it for its identity most of the time. Usually when I carry a thick card of some kind, it's usually a guarantee card or a joker. So it's something I can ring in and out easily without drawing any suspicion to it. You don't have to use it for its identity, but you can at least once, right? You can use it at least once for its identity. Unless you have a routine where you just keep coming back to that card, which is great because then you can keep using it in multiple effects, tiered effects, part of a larger routine, using it for its identity. However, once you've done it with its identity and you go on to another effect, now you have a key in your deck, right? You can have them pick a card And then you have the ability to get that into a position where you can use it. They pick their card, you throw it on top, you have it, cut in. And now I'm all set here to do genuine riffles. I have their card sitting on top of the double thick card. I cut it in. Now I can easily divide the deck, and guess what I've got? I've got my double thick here, and I've got their card, I've got their card right below it, okay? You got to remember your management. But I always have it in proximity, and I can always keep it there. What I wanted to do actually was to riffle this way, right? So you can riffle down, drop that way, and now you have your double thick on one side, you have theirs on the other. You just maintain it, right, in your riffling. And then, just like you would with a breather, you do the same thing with a breather, okay? You maintain its position, and then at the last minute, you can cut it back together, and then you have it. So keep it in contrary sides of the deck, and now I have it in place, and I can always get back to it, right? I can always find that location where their card is at, control it one way or the other. Probably the best way to handle, just to recap that, best way to handle is to keep your key at the bottom rather than at the top. So you have the key at the bottom, and then, keep the key at the top rather than at the bottom, okay, so that they can take a card out and then they put it on top. And then whenever you're dividing it later on, now I'm dividing with their card falling on the underside of the deck. And I can do a fair-looking riffle and then do a cut straight away, and I've put it right back. I mean, it looks super, super fair. So using it as a key, really, really, really brilliant use of a double thick card. Highly recommend it. So anyway, that was it. What did we cover here? More double thick cards, use it as a key, use it for its identity. But we also did cover one of the uses of a double thick card, and that is to be able to do a dribble force when you otherwise are concerned about doing it, right? If you have always liked the idea of forcing on a dribble, but you don't like doing the dribble force, you have a concern about that, try it with this. Because it's just bang on every time when you do it. And you can be very nonchalant about it. It actually gives you so much more freedom. This is the way gimmicks work, isn't it? There's two ways to accomplish a trick. And we talked about this before about putting energy in certain places. If you put your energy into the manipulation of whatever it is you're doing, that will require some practice to do that. But you can put your energy into the design of it. And it still will require practice, but it won't require mastery of the same sort. The mastery is all here. The mastery is in this all ahead of time. It's in the design of it. It's in the creation of it. That's where the mastery and all the energy has been placed. A thick card is that kind of mastery, right? It's that kind of application. And that's why the most fooling tricks, the most fooling illusions are usually the ones that are elaborate in design. They're more elaborate in design than what a normal person would want to invest. It's like doing that thing that seems casual and on the street, but what really went into it is that you scouted the location out 2 days ahead of time, and you've got 5 people working with you, and you've placed objects where they need to be, and you have apparatus doing, you've over-engineered the situation so that the payoff can seem casual to a random person on the street. That's extremely fooling. No one can see through that. Who would do such a thing? Double thick card is that kind of a gimmick. So anyway, good luck with all that. A bit of a rant here and a lot of discussion on the double thick card and its uses. More of that. I'd hate to sound like Johnny One Note on that gimmick, but it's such a good gimmick for the common magician. I mean, it's a really, really brilliant one. And it doesn't only have to be for the common magician. You can be a professional, and if you use a double thick card, it can make your magic look so much cleaner because you don't have to manipulate as much. You can be so much more free and in the open. And for magicians to look at that in particular, if you go to a magic convention and you do a bunch of session work with magic buddies and you use a double thick card or a thick card, you're going to fry a lot of brains because they're not going to assume that you're using that. They won't think of that. That's not what will be on their mind. So really solid gimmick. Highly recommend it. Don't write it off, and don't create a false dichotomy that you can use that or it has to be some other kind of gimmick like a breather an impromptu breather or some other kind of a short or whatever. There is no false dichotomy. You can use all of these things for their purposes in different times. So there it is. Good luck with that. Happy magicking.